Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, Robert Meyer Burnett. I invite you to watch and listen to the Designing Hollywood podcast, brought to you by Martika Ibarra and the great, legendary Hollywood costume designer, Marilyn Vance. I am afforded the wonderful opportunity of co-hosting the show. If you are interested in the magic of Hollywood, the design of Hollywood, the clothes of Hollywood, watch the Designing Hollywood podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts from, or find the video version on the John Campea YouTube channel. That's right, the Designing Hollywood podcast. Why would you ever want to miss it? Especially if you love the movies.
Hey, my name is King, or as some of you might know me better, Israel. I've gotten around, but hopefully you recognize me from my own channel, King Tannic. There's a new show coming to the Burnettwork that I think is pretty exciting. Welcome to the Otaku Experience, hosted by yours truly. There is going to be a weekly series where we dive into the news and the world of anime, manga, and whatever the heck else Japan has to offer us. The show will be pre-recorded and premiere on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Pacific Time or 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Burnettwork YouTube channel.
Robservations with Robert Meyer Burnett.
This episode of Robservations is sponsored by The John Campea Show. Find the video on YouTube and the audio version wherever you get your podcasts. Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your archbishop of the imagination. Actually, it's the Archbishop of Canterbury and the evangelist of the imagination. But you know what? This drawing is by the late, great Mark Chure. Let's take a moment to remember him. Thank you, Mark. I very much appreciate this drawing. And as John Campea has called me, your existential Mr. Rogers, that's right, moi, Robert Meyer Burnett, and this is Robservations episode number 841. And I am Rob, casting from the Robservatory at you, imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. It's good to have you here. Good to be doing Robservations yet again. So, you know, they say that those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And I understand, as I always also say, you don't get what you deserve in the entertainment business. You get what you negotiate, and it ain't show friends, it's show business. So maybe some of that explains this. Let me just start out leading into the main story here. Everybody is looking forward to, who is not looking forward to Blumhouse's adaptation that Jim Henson's company is working on, Five Nights at Freddys. Come on, man. If there's ever a movie that was poised to succeed in the theaters, especially if you look at what we've been getting in terms of horror in the box office, Smile, $17 million spend, making $200 million worldwide. Barbarian, famously a $4.5 million film, makes over $40 million. Horror is big business these days, people. The last Scream movie, still burning up the box office charts. Horror is big. People like going to horror. It's always been big. It always goes through these cycles, and then when they actually put out a bunch of good horror movies, it's like, woo, we're in the middle of a horror boom. Well, let me tell you, I'm an old man with one foot in the grave now, and I've always gone to horror movies. And of course, remember, this year is the 50th anniversary of one of my favorite horror films, The Exorcist. We got Exorcist 3 last week on 4K disc, and we're getting a 4K of the original. But Five Nights at Freddys, according to Deadline today, according to Anthony D'Alessandro, Five Nights at Freddys is opening theatrically and going day and date onto Peacock at the same time. Now, it is a Blumhouse film, and maybe it's something to do with Blumhouse has a deal. They're making content. Obviously, Peacock is Universal's streaming service, NBC Universal. And, of course, Blumhouse is, their films are released through Universal. So perhaps this was a deal they made a while ago, but I just think that these day and date releases, now they might be, to be fair, I don't know the answer to this, but it seems to me they probably have a long-standing deal that they have to honor, Blumhouse has to honor with Peacock, because we saw this with Halloween Ends, I think Halloween Kills, I'm not sure, I don't remember, but we've seen it. So this is something, I just think it's dumb. I think people are leaving money on the table. And, I had tweeted this out earlier, and somebody wrote back to me and said, well, Rob, not everybody's got nice movie theaters or nice movie theaters like you have in America. That's a fair point, actually. And a lot of people don't like going to the movies. These Gen Z kids always talking on their phones. I mean, hell, it's not just Gen Z, it's everybody. People are rude motherfuckers when it comes to going to the movie theaters. I don't understand. When you go out into the world, it used to be that I would go out into the world when I was younger, and I would try and be polite to my fellow human beings. And when I walked into a movie theater, it was understood we're all paying to go into that movie theater. And when the lights come down, nothing should matter but whatever is unfurling on the big screen in front of you. I know the screens have gotten smaller, but hopefully it's a big screen. Nowadays, people think that they personally, because of social media, that they're more important. Whatever stupid information is coming in on their phone, whatever their dumb tweets they're getting, whatever the hell they're doing, they look at their phones in the movie theater. There's nothing more disruptive than seeing the light of someone's phone come on. And you know what I like to do? If someone next to me or in front of me is doing that, I like to put on the Clint Eastwood voice. You know what to do. If you don't put your phone away, I'm going to slit your throat from ear to ear. And give it a long pause before you sit back so they know you mean business. Perhaps actually that is maybe not the best way. I've actually done that once, though. It worked. But I wouldn't recommend in this day and age, especially if you live in Texas, I wouldn't do that. But, a man can dream. And I just think that it's Five Nights at Freddy's, day and date theatrical. This is it says right in this article, this is the fourth Blumhouse movie to day and date with Universal streaming service after Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends, and Firestarter. And, the movie, it looks like it's good. I think Five Nights at Freddy's is something I think it could be huge if it's as good as it looks. It's got great talent involved. And who doesn't want to see it? Come on now. I bet it's great. So it's going day and date. That's got to cut into that box office. I mean, however, as we discuss the main topic, which also comes to us from Deadline today, perhaps I am incorrect. Maybe I'm wrong. And maybe the day and date strategy could work. It certainly didn't work for Warner Brothers during the pandemic. They left tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars on the table. It just doesn't work. And look, if you make movies that people want to go see in the theater, they're going to go, as evidenced by our main story, the main story, the only story right now. And here is this article. It was in Deadline today. And it comes to us from Dade Hayes. It was posted this morning on Deadline. Most moviegoers will still go to theaters, even if what they're seeing will soon be streaming. I mean, think about that. People who like to go to the movies will still go to the movies, even though they know, it's a good bet that every movie that's in the movie theater is going to show up on streaming. But the thing is, going to the movies, assuming you have a good theater that's well taken care of with great projection, like AMC, although who knows what's going to happen. It's a wacky time out there for the entire entertainment business across the board. Hey, you're a Disney shareholder. It got wacky for you. Warner Brothers, wacky over there. It's wacky everywhere. AMC, it's wacky. Cineworld's even wackier. But there's still a lot of great stuff coming out in the theater. And what a surprise. People like to go to the movies. You know why? Because it's fun. But admittedly so, you want great projection. And we've got to get that. That's key. So if projection's good and you've got a great experience going to the movies, I think, look, it's turning into everything else. They are gouging you at every level they can. And I really think they need to play a little bit more fair with the audience. And, if you want to charge a lot of money for food, provide a gourmet experience. I miss my beloved ArcLight so much because they did. And of course, there are theaters, whether Alamo Drafthouse, there are theaters, and even AMC, even big chains are starting to step up their gourmet refreshment game, which is good, But anyway, I read this article and I thought, wow, this article doesn't really surprise me. Dade Hayes wrote this. 2/3 of moviegoers are not concerned about the length of a film's release window when they visit a theater, and theatrical titles still enjoy a vast advantage in terms of awareness over original movies made for streaming. Those are two of the many findings in The Symbiotic Future of Theatrical and Streaming, a new report from UTA IQ. UTA is the United Talent Agency. It's a big talent agency that was formed when two other agencies, one of them was Burnett, came together and formed UTA. The agency's research and analytics group. The 55-page report offers extensive validation for the traditional theatrical release model using data collected January 3rd to 11th from 2,000 U.S. consumers between the ages of 15 and 69. Okay, why I find this a kind of amusing. So they polled probably people at the movie theater who from January 3rd to 11th, so basically, a little over a week, was that an extra day, from 2,000 U.S. consumers between the ages of 15 and 69, dude. But is that surprising? I mean, obviously, when there are movies that people would like to see, whether it's Creed 3, whether it's Scream 6, whether it's Top Gun Maverick, whatever it is, if the movie has something to attract people to go see it. We have the new movie Air coming out with Matt Damon, and obviously Ben Affleck is in it, and he also directed it. I think that, I don't know how big the release is on that film, but the buzz being as good as it is, maybe people will go see it. I like feel-good stories. I love stories about products. By the way, I highly recommend, I know it seems strange, I highly recommend Tetris on Apple Plus. The movie with Tauren Atkinson about the guy who acquired Tetris and was able to put it out with Nintendo on Game Boy. It's really good. And now we have a movie, Air, about somebody, Matt Damon's visionary character, who decides to build a whole shoe line around a rookie player that had never been on an NBA court before, Michael Jordan. It's one of those great stories where someone had foresight. I love stories like that. But I think that, there's a lot of, I watch a lot of trailers. As a matter of fact, I watch every trailer that comes on YouTube. And there's a lot of, Netflix always puts trailers for their shows. But there's something about the problem that I have with Netflix movies. I saw one today. I don't know what Kerry Russell stars in it. Looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. Well, I think it's Rufus Sewell and Kerry Russell. She plays a diplomat, or she's married to the British ambassador of something or other. Never heard of this movie. And I know that the trailer is supposed to tell me about this movie, but the movie's coming out in 2 weeks. The reason people aren't aware of streaming movies is because they're not aware of them. There's no marketing buildup. Now, with a movie that's coming out theatrically, a studio will drop a teaser, they'll drop a trailer, and then they'll probably drop a pre-release trailer, a third trailer, building up the anticipation. I mean, I don't understand why streamers, I guess they don't really care, but they don't do that. They don't build up anticipation through multiple trailers. They drop a trailer 2 weeks before the thing comes out, and I'll tell you something, as good as some of these trailers look, I don't remember them. I don't read about these movies getting made in the trades. It's always surprising to me when I see a trailer for something on Netflix or Apple Plus that I haven't heard of before, and that's most of the things they show, because I'm pretty savvy when it comes to, I read the trades every day, I scour, I read Puck, I read the Ankler, all these things, I read them every day, and when half these movies that streamers make, never heard of until you see the trailer. So, I mean, I think that streamers should push their movies more, and if they're really good, give them a theatrical berth. Anyway, so 2/3 of moviegoers are not concerned about the length of a film's release window when they visit a theater. These are two of the many findings I read the name of this, but The Symbiotic Future of Theatrical and Streaming, a new report from UTA IQ. 2/3 of Americans say the length of time from a movie's release in theaters to its availability at home has little or no impact in their decision to see a movie in theaters. Maybe the most interesting section of the report had to do with the overlap of theatrical and streaming. Only 8 of the 24 titles survey respondents said they had most recently seen were original films made for streaming platforms. 8 of the 24. And the biggest of those, Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, had a 1-week national theatrical release as a one-off experiment by Netflix, which I think was, as a one-off experiment, I still maintain that was stupid. They were coming off a $350 million worldwide gross. Everybody knows that Glass Onion, the Knives Out movies, are a theatrical experience. They should have gone all in and given it a release like any other major studio. I think they would have made a lot of money. I think they left tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars on the table. And since they paid $450 million for 2 Glass Onion movies, they could have got some of that cheddar back. Anyway, even more revealingly, when asked to name the most recent streaming original movie they watched, only 1/4 of consumers correctly listed one. The remaining 75% either couldn't remember the last streaming original movie they watched or answered with the name of a theatrically released movie they watched at home. Along with obvious theatrical first draws like Top Gun Maverick, the list of top titles included Sony's Bullet Train. It's jumping around. Wait, where was I? It jumped around. And where was I reading? Okay, anyway, along with obvious theatrical first draws like Top Gun Maverick, the list of top titles included Sony's Bullet Train, which streamed on Netflix under the studio's Pay One deal with the streaming service. 3 of Netflix's five top viewed film releases of 2022 had theatrical windows first. 3 out of 5. And I have to tell you, going back to this Kerry Russell movie, I want to watch it. I don't know what the movie is. It was the diplomat, the attaché, the prime minister. I don't even remember what it was. And although I know in my mind that movie has become the Kerry Russell movie. That's what it is. The Kerry Russell movie that Iran didn't do it. or something. But I don't know the name of it. So I don't know is that just me because I wasn't aware of this movie, the build up to it. I think that's what it was. There was no build up. There was no teaser trailer. There was no main trailer and then a trailer right before the movie came out. So it built in my own mind, the way I'm used to seeing or feeling movie marketing is not there with streamers. So it doesn't penetrate my subconscious. What that says about me, I don't know. Maybe I'm just fucking old. I don't know. There are encouraging findings in terms of long-term viability of theaters. About 75% of respondents said they plan to maintain or increase their movie-going pace in 2023. Only 28% said that having access to enough movies at home is why they're going to the movies less often or not at all. Overall, theatrical output, which declined dramatically during COVID, is climbing again, though there were only 103 releases by UTA's count last year. That was up just 2 films from 2021 and well below the prior level of 140 to 150 films a year before the pandemic. Streaming originals, meanwhile, have passed the 200 annual mark, doubling over the past 5 years. Among those who have yet to return to theaters at a pre-pandemic level, fewer than a third, 28%, say it's due to the abundance of movie access at home. Instead, they cite as their chief reasons pricing, 47%, and health and safety concerns at 38%, though at a sharply lower rate than a year ago. One disconcerting sign is so many horror movies and thrillers have crowded out other genres. Using an analysis of film content developed by UTA-owned Mediahound, the study found that suspenseful as a description applied 3 times as often for theatrical first titles as for streaming originals. Well, I think the answer to that is obvious. Everybody wants to have a shared experience when you watch a horror film. It's a lot more fun to sit in a theater full of screaming people, not screaming kids, but people who are screaming at what they're watching on the screen. Horror movies work way better when they're a collective experience, and that's why audiences flock to them. I think the problem is that a lot of theatrical movies that are getting made, when When was the last time you saw a movie like Hunt for Red October in a movie theater? You haven't, because they'll make a Jack Ryan TV series. If they made Hunt for Red October today, it'd be a 10-part series adaptation of the novel, which is too bad, because Hunt for Red October was a very, very satisfying movie-going experience. And, I grew up with Fatal Attraction. That was an adult thriller. That was also kind of a horror film in a way. And it was a banger to see in a theater. And those Paramount movies, hell, this week, Flashdance, the 40th anniversary. Oh my God, the 40th anniversary of Flashdance is coming out on disc. I saw Flashdance in a theater, and the music and the visuals, Simpson Bruckheimer putting their early imprint tour on 80s pop culture. That movie was great to see in a theater. It looked great. It had that British vibe in it. It was great. The commercial vibe, the commercial director vibe, all the people like Ridley Scott and Alan Parker and Adrian Lyne, all those British directors that had that sweet look that really just ensorcelled you when you're in the theater. Even Flashdance, we don't get anything like that anymore. Teen comedies are all on streaming. It's funny. Somebody asked me on Twitter the other day if I'd seen the movie Student Bodies. It's a Paramount film from 1981. It was a parody. The slasher genre was so entrenched by 1981 that they made a pretty bawdy R-rated parody. It before Scary Movie, there was Student Bodies, and you should all run to YouTube, not right now, after the stream, or at least smash that like button and hit the notification button and then go see it. But watch the trailer for Student Bodies. I guarantee you're going to be like, oh, I got to go see that. Even that people would go see in a theater. But the problem is there's very few movies that aren't event pictures. And I consider a horror film kind of an event movie. A Halloween movie comes out, a Scream movie comes out. It's an event film. If Shrek comes out, then it's a Taylor Gonzalez event film. But, animated titles, Mario, the Super Mario Brothers movie is an event film for multi-generations of people. I can't believe the people that I've seen, that are flocking to see this movie. They're talking about it might have a $123 million opening or something. I think it might even be bigger over the 5 days it's going to open. But people want to see that was an event picture. And if you make event movies or you give people movies that in their minds they can talk to their friends about, like, how excited are we? The Super Mario Brothers movie had an incredible marketing campaign. Ramped it up, made us anticipate, made us wait. And that's why people are going to the movies. Nobody wants to sit and wait and watch the Super Mario Brothers movie by themselves. That's an event picture you go see in the theater with all your friends. You cheer. Hell, Donkey Kong, man, I've been playing that since, 1980? I remember getting, the ColecoVision. It was, I think, the first 16-bit console, playing a little Donkey Kong. Maybe it was 8-bit, I don't remember. But what was the first thing that you could get on ColecoVision at home? Donkey Kong. Come on, we go all the way back. It's an event picture. People are going. So that's why horror movies are not, it's not that horror movies are squeezing other movies out of the theaters. It's that people want to go see horror movies in theaters. So they're coming out and look at how they performed in the last year. It's terrific. And I love it. The report consists of an analysis of domestic box office metrics and U.S. viewership of movies on leading streaming platforms, nationally representative survey data among 2,000 U.S. consumers ages 15 to 69, and proprietary trait analytics from UTA-owned MediaHound of the style and story elements of top movies in the U.S. across distribution models. The study proves what we intuitively believed, that there is nothing wrong with the movie business that better films and cleaner theaters can't fix. I would say this, what you're really missing is you have to deliver great sound and great projection and clean theaters and a great experience with refreshments and great seats. You've got to make the venue just delicious, not just the food, but the whole experience. And people will go. People will come, Ray. That's what you got to do. You got to make going to the movies a special event. So everybody's excited when they, the AMC Dolby cinemas that we have here, man. First of all, you sit in those chairs and it's like being in the Nexus in Star Trek Generations. You're wrapped in joy. It's great. You lounge out, you got your food, and then you get to sit in a Dolby theater where the blacks are black. I mean, I'm talking about the actual black on the screen. Your picture has to be balanced correctly. The colors are vibrant. The sound is loud. I mean, you want to get, and they even have it. They even show you the difference in a Dolby Cinema between true black and kind of the not like kind of that gray black. That means your digital projector is not tweaked correctly, and that happens a lot. We're all getting digital projection now, and you have to have great blacks. You got to have, when you go see a movie like The Batman, and we saw it, man, that was just, that movie in a Dolby theater, the darkness of it. I mean, you should be able to see into the dark, and the black should not be crushed so you lose detail. And when you go into those Dolby cinemas, man, and you see that razor clarity, that image just pops. That's why people go to the theater. And when the Batmobile revved up in that Dolby Cinema, man, wow. You felt it in your bones. So you're not just watching a movie, you're having an experience. John Campea would always say movies are experiential events. Well, when you have great sound and great projection, people go. And I feel that way. Look, my favorite movie of last year was Tar. And seeing that in a film, seeing that film in the theater, the cinematography is incredible. I know it wasn't everybody's cup of tea. But for me, the image, the quality, the sound design in that film was incredible. And it sounds great on my Atmos system here at home, but man, was it great in the theater. And I maintain pretty much every movie is better in the theater, but people aren't necessarily going to go run out and see things like Banshees of Inisherin. I mean, I will in the theater, but not a lot of people can be convinced because they don't think that's a movie people can sit down and quietly watch at home. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. So anyway, audiences want a variety, including franchises they love, well-made sequels, and great originals with strong characters in immersive environments. As an industry, we need to regain the confidence required to aspire to make great movies of all kinds that will inspire theatrical audiences. Well, I mean, this is not something that anybody who's watched me for any length of time would disagree with, because I agree with it too. That's what we want. We want great experiences at the movies, and people will go. And I think it's quite important. And I don't know why a lot of people seem to think that, well, this is some great shocking revelation, that they even had to do a study. Like, watch my channel or call me, ask me. Do people still want to go to the movies, Rob? Yes, they do. They want to go to the movies. Top Gun was a great movie-going experience, as I expect Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 will be. If the word on the street, and the word on the street's been on the street for at least a year, about how good The Flash is, if The Flash is good and it delivers, and it gives us something that isn't so generic superhero-y, and there's real pathos in it, and I suspect there will be, people will go if you give them a great time. And that's always been true. We need great stories, and the studios also should start delivering some great original programming, like Air. I mean, that was, and Tetris, I'll tell you, even though it was an Apple Plus film, I would have gone to see Tetris in a theater. If I had seen a couple of trailers in the lead up to it, I was riveted by that movie. I thought it was terrific. I mean, a movie about the game Tetris. But you know what? We all played it, and they could have marketed the hell out of that movie, and I think they could have made a lot of money. I think that movie might have opened big because it was a great film. And sitting in the theater, it would have delivered. The end of that movie really delivers. You have feelings at the end. It is a triumphant story. And just like the Super Mario Brothers movie, I mean, it's not obviously as appealing as that because it is only Tetris, but it was a fascinating story that I really didn't know. And having lived through the time of Tetris, it was great stuff, and I just think that we just have to figure out what movies to make and which ones are going to get that great oomph from our dollars. I mean, are people going to go see them? And people will. People will go. People will go, Ray. People will definitely go. Now, people have been sending in some super chats. And let's see. The these are anonymous. These actually are tips. So there's the tip link is down below if you want to use a tip link. Anonymous says, "Man, I always listen to your recommendations, and you never disappoint. Kingdom was a great zombie show. That's the series on Netflix, the Korean period piece zombie show. The Recruit on Netflix was good, and you were right about the last James Bond movie. It was horrible. I was so disappointed in No Time to Die. That film. Well, I'm glad that you think my look. I try and recommend. I'll tell you something. When I was growing up, in the 80s, I worked at what was generally considered the second video store in the United States. I know that's a bold statement, but I worked at a store called Video Space that was founded by Weston Nishimura, who later went on to found the VSDA, the Video Software Dealers Association of America. I was 13 years old, and I started working in a video store. And one of the things that I had to do was recommend movies to customers. And you'd learn to read the customers because there weren't that many of them because not many people had VCRs back then. So when they would come in, it was a point of pride for me to try and give people movies I thought they would like. So if I recommend something, and I'll tell you, like, as much as I love my beloved Antonioni Ennui trilogy, La Notte, La Ventura, and The Eclipse, I can't recommend that to most of the people that watch the show. Italian films of the late 50s and early 60s sometimes just isn't everyone's jam. As a matter of fact, before you watch those movies, you kind of have to know what you're getting into. You have to educate yourself and train yourself, because if you watch them, it can be like watching paint dry. I love Andrei Tarkovsky. He's one of my favorite directors, but to any science fiction fan who might be interested in seeing Stalker, his science fiction movie Stalker, the movie he made between Solaris and The Sacrifice, in terms of fantasy films, I couldn't recommend Stalker to a lot of people, even though I think it's a significant and important movie. And there's a great YouTube video on the making of the film and how everybody, including Tarkovsky himself, succumbed to cancer because of where they shot that film. But, I try and recommend. It's a point of pride to me to recommend things I think are good. And when I bring stuff up on the show, it is usually my ringing endorsement. And if it's not, I'll tell you something. These are things that I love, but they're not for everybody. Like Antonioni's Ennui trilogy. Anonymous, I don't know if this was the same Anonymous or a different Anonymous. Anonymous goes on, a different Anonymous says, "Hey Rob, everyone praises Henry Cavill as Superman, and they should, he's great. But I was always sad Brandon Routh never got another chance." Oh, me too. A lot of people know that I worked on Superman Returns, and I don't think any person worked harder on a movie, an actor, than Brandon Routh did. He could have, we were in Australia, he didn't go out and party. He wasn't aloof or anything. He was very nice, but he worked his ass off. His gym routine, I filmed some of it. It's on the Blu-ray documentary. Man, his sense of dedication. He worked with an acting coach during in his off hours just to get better, to hone his craft. He worked out. He was very diligent. I mean, nobody has ever worked harder. Such a nice guy. He worked incredibly hard on that film. And I thought he was great. And I always thought it was kind of sad they never made another one. But what can you do? I still think because of things that follow Bryan Singer around, and also Kevin Spacey, Warner Brothers doesn't really have an interest in putting it out in 4K, which, kind of bums me out. I would love a chance to redo my documentary and add more to it. Horseface sends in a tip and says, "I'm really proud of what Amanda Plummer has been able to achieve in Picard Season 3 by providing representation for unattractive people," which you don't get to see too often in leading roles, though they put her in the villain role. Horseface. Well, I think what's great about Amanda Plummer is I think she has an offbeat attractiveness. Like if you watch her in Pulp Fiction, she's attractive. But yeah, they actually, and then they gave her that weird haircut and they have scars on her face. I mean, yeah, I think that, but I think she relishes that role. I mean, Amanda Plummer has always been a character actress anyway, and she's always done a great job. And I think she's knocking it out of the park. And, when we learned her backstory in episode 7, she, as a renegade changeling, she's got real beef with the Federation. And I really love the way she's playing it. So, but it's an interesting way you put it there, Horseface. So yeah. The Reliable Sauce sends in a super chat. What is the Reliable Sauce? What's the best Reliable Sauce? The Reliable Sauce says, can I jump on live sometime, Rob? I'd love to chat. Well, as you know, we do let randos jump on Midnight Musings, usually at midnight Pacific time. But yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know what would happen, Reliable Sauce, having not known you, if we just jumped on. What if you got nervous and clammed up? What if I got nervous? Because you made me nervous. But hey, maybe that'll happen. One of the things that we've done on this channel is we bring on the randos, and that makes it fun. Not usually on Robservations, though. Papa Jish said, would you have enjoyed Return of the Jedi if the Wookiees were involved? Also, I love you, and Kingdom is amazing. It's not One Piece. It's only 16 episodes. So fun. Papa Jish, well, thank you. Kingdom is amazing. And, you know, it's so great because we're so used to seeing zombies in the modern age, you know, but they're old zombie movies. Sometimes were period pieces. And like I really like the Blind Dead movies. Those aren't really zombie movies. They're kind of zombie movies. But I loved seeing it. You got to see zombies in a whole different milieu. And I loved it. It's a great show. So it was great. And what I've enjoyed, listen, okay, so for those of you who might have never watched me or watched this show before, I am not a huge fan of Return of the Jedi. I know. Oh, people are unsubscribing left and right now. But only because Star Wars and Empire really changed my life. I saw Empire Strikes Back in the theater 26 times. I loved it. I think the beginning and the end of Jedi are some of the best Star Wars ever. I love the swashbuckling rescue of Han Solo. I don't like the creature design in Jedi. For me, it lacked verisimilitude. When you first see the Gamorrean Guard, it looks very unrealistic. The designs of everything from Cy Snoodles and the Rebo Band to the Gamorrean Guards to some of the stuff like Weequay and some of the people on Jabba's sail barge were really cool looking. Others, it looked like they were in a different movie. But I still like the swashbuckling rescue of Han Solo, and the confrontation in the throne room is great. But the rest of the movie is kind of inconsequential. I mean, Luke goes to see Ben, or goes to see Yoda on Dagobah. Well, you know, the other is your sister. There was no real, there's nothing going on. Whereas Empire Strikes Back, you're tense the whole time. Star Wars is a journey where you feel you've really gone places and things are happening. And Jedi was, to me, after the triumph of Empire. I know someone's going to say, Rob said triumph again. But Star Wars changed everyone's lives. It changed Hollywood. It changed the way we imagine what we could see on a movie screen. And Empire Strikes Back plus what Star Wars was. I thought Jedi, you know, I just didn't dig it. If the Wookiees were involved and we got to see, like, it would have been really interesting. If I think the Wookiees were involved, we could have related to them more. It's just, I understand the expense involved. But if you found out that the Wookiees had been almost hunted to extinction on Kashyyyk or something, and they were building the Death Star over Kashyyyk, I think that would have been really interesting to delve into their culture. George Lucas could have, you know, played that same trope, the idea of a primitive society fighting a much more advanced and mechanized one. Definitely the Vietnam allegory was not lost on us. But I just think that it could have been a much more adult feeling kind of a movie. I thought that Star Wars was a movie that was made for the child and everybody. And Empire Strikes Back was made for the teenager and young adult in everyone because it was about how the world could get even worse. Whereas Return of the Jedi was rather infantile. Although, again, I did love the confrontation with the Emperor. But even the Emperor, you know, it's interesting now because people forget since 97, or they erased the original version of the Emperor that was in Empire. Clive Revill played him. And when Vader goes to speak with the Emperor, when they take the executor out of the asteroid field, and what is thy bidding, my master? And you see the Emperor, he's quiet and contemplative. You know, if he could be turned, he would be a valuable asset. And the Emperor's like, yes, Yes. There was a quiet menace with him. And when the Emperor shows up in Jedi, it's, he's one step away from Wallace Shawn. He's actually he's like the witch in Snow White, and that menace. I mean, the Emperor was cool, but I love the Clive Revel Emperor, and he's been erased from Star Wars history. What can you do? The Movie Canon says, I just bought my first hot toy last month, and I'm already addicted. I've ordered 3 so far, and I still want more. What was the last one you ordered? Ooh, the last one I pre-ordered. What was the last one I pre-ordered? That's a good question. I have some coming. I have Wenwu and Shang-Chi coming. Captain America coming. You know what? The last one I bought, because I use points, I bought the White Vision from WandaVision. So I can have my colored vision and my white vision, put them in my module cases fighting. But that was the last one I bought. But that had come out already. So, I accumulate points and I try and buy things with points when I have them. So, yeah, so it's the White Vision was the last one I just ordered and bought. So, which is pretty cool. Let's see. Matt Gilmet, Gilmet, I think, Gilmet. Hey, Rob, I look forward to your new videos on here. I hope to see you on Friday Night Tights again in the future. That's Nerdrotics channel. Hey, I'm friends with Gary. I would do that. I would do that. And Friday Night Tights is great. It's very funny. I was on there once, and they're like, everyone was on their best behavior, which I thought was funny, because you know me. My brand is positivity, and I like people. So so that maybe I will be. Jay West says, today is my birthday. Can I get a shout out? Laugh out loud. Well, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Jay West. Happy birthday to you. And many more. How about that? Happy birthday, Jay. Did you get any Hot Toys figures? Why not? Go get them. How does Marvel divert story-wise if Jonathan Majors is convicted of the abuse allegations? Man, I don't know. I would suspect, I loved the Infinity Saga. All 23 movies. Even the ones that, I go back and watch Iron Man 2 now, it's a lot better than I remember. Because you know it's coming, and you know what, even like, I liked Captain Marvel. I liked Thor the Dark World. I liked The Incredible Hulk. I don't love them, but they're still really entertaining movies. And I've liked The Eternals because it's, as a science fiction movie, I liked Shang-Chi a great deal, but these movies don't connect. The most exciting thing, and maybe it's because I read the scripts, is Secret Invasion for me. I think Secret Invasion has a really compelling, interesting story, and the tone of it looks correct. I just feel that the multiverse hasn't, or the way they approached it is wrong. And I don't think that they've made me care about it with Loki and all that. It just seemed, it was too out there. Whereas, you look at a movie like Endgame, I've talked about this a lot on this channel. It opens with Hawkeye's family being, the snapping happening, and it's the snapping happening. And that was a great way to open that film. When then Mr. Fantasy comes over, the song comes on over the Marvel logo, and it's like, oh, here we go. I was like, oh man. So I don't know. Are they able to do that? I don't know what they're going to do. And it's too bad. Jonathan Majors, I liked Devotion. He was great in Creed 3. And as Kang, it was weird that version of Kang was defeated. I know there's more versions, but Kang, they haven't, Jonathan Majors is great as Kang, but I'm not feeling the threat. And the multiverse, it seems like no matter what happens, a lot of it's inconsequential because it's in a different universe, or there's people from different universes. And even over at Sony with Across the Spider-Verse, which looks fantastic to me. Again, all this multiversal stuff. It's kind of weird. I guess there's something in the water. Anonymous Girl Hi, Anonymous Girl. Rob Burnett. How are you? Anonymous Girl says, hey, Rob, I just wanted to send some money to support your channel. Well, Anonymous Girl, if I've got strange anonymous women, not that you're strange, I just don't know you. Anonymous women sending me money, I must be doing something right. I very much appreciate your support. Thanks for that $20 super chat. It's very kind of you. Very kind of you. My man, King Tannic. Robservations with Robert Meyer Burnett. Yeah, that was done for me. I didn't do that. Have a good show. Thanks for keeping me entertained as I edit the Otaku Experience. For those who don't know, King Tannic does a show. You might know because if you watch this show from the beginning, you saw the advertisement. King Tannic approached me, young YouTuber. He made a documentary of a course that you need to see. It's really, really good. He's a filmmaker as well as a YouTuber, but he does every Thursday. He asked me about putting the show on the channel, and I said, look, if you get it to me by 2 o'clock, actually the night before, so I can put up on the channel. And tomorrow is his 10th episode. He's got me 10 episodes of the Otaku Experience. He does a great show, puts on a great show. I think he does a great job. And you can watch it tomorrow, 2 p.m. Pacific time. So tune in for the 10th episode of the Otaku Experience. I feel I should go like Israel does in his promo. Rewatch Ryan says the Rob Hive is buzzing. Well, Ryan, I've been rewatching your videos. I must say, I think you're a very insightful individual, sir. And it was good speaking with you. The Reliable Sauce and Papa Jish I read. Movie Canon I read too. And look, I take no, let me just say, I take no responsibility for you Hot Toys addicts out there. The thing is, here's the thing about Hot Toys. I'm convinced, and this might not be true, but I'm convinced when you open one and you smell the chemical plastic smell, it's a very intoxicating smell. It's not my favorite smell, but there's others. It's just you're like, and then you take off it's collector friendly, so you can pop off all the different plastic layers and the accessories. You can't if you have one in your hand. I mean, it's just, it is very intoxicating, and you're gonna get addicted. Blue Sunrise sends in a super chat just for support. Thanks, Blue Sunrise. Have you seen Blue Sunrise? Have you seen the movie Blue Sunshine? Blue Sunshine, I want to say it's a late 70s drug horror film. People that took like LSD and later in life they get affected and like their hair falls off. It stars Zalman King, who later went on to direct things like 9.5 Weeks. You got to check that out, man. Blue Sunshine. I mean, I don't know. See, word association, Blue Sunrise, I think Blue Sunshine. And you know what? If you don't want to watch the movie, go watch the trailer because it's great. Razel Prime says, hi, Rob. I just got out of Mario with my babe and a packed theater, and it was a hoot. Quick pace, great performances, and packed with musical and visual details for gamers with a big applause at the end. Man, I got to tell you, a friend of mine actually said to watch Grace Randolph's review of Super Mario Brothers, and I watched the review, and I was like, man, what a buzzkill that was. And everyone, like you, are liking it. People are liking it, and it's very interesting. I can't wait to see it. I'm looking forward to going to see it myself. I've just been busy I did a Designing Hollywood. I had to finish that. I recorded one. So those, by the way, people have asked, the Designing Hollywood podcast for the moment are going to continue to air on the John Campea channel. And we've got some great people coming up. Really, really exciting people. So look out for those. And I'm glad, Razel, that you took your babe. And I hope that your babe liked it too. Papa Jish comes back and says, I'm interested to know your top 3 favorite J.J. Abrams projects of all time. Well, I mean, okay, Felicity. I liked Felicity. I liked Alias. And I like Person of Interest. I loved a lot of Lost. but then it became apparent to me they didn't know where they were going. I have not been a fan of any of his feature films. Mission Impossible 3 a little bit, but certainly not Star Trek and Star Trek Into Darkness and Super 8 and Star Wars, The Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker. But I like his TV stuff. And I remember I saw Regarding Henry when it first came out, and I kind of like that. He wrote that. But that's very funny, Papa Jish. Baiting me. He tasks me, and I shall have him. Ovo Jacob says, I'm woeful. Affleck's Batman never got its time. I know. Speaking of Hot Toys, this is actually from my Justice League Hot Toys Batman. This is the Affleck head sculpt, and as you can see, I mean, this is great. I'm trying to I've got to figure out, this is a Fison body. So this is actually silicone, and inside is a metal armature. And by the way, he does come with junk if you want. These bodies are also used in art classes for learning how to draw anatomy. But I didn't really realize I had this body, and I wanted to, I have Bruce Wayne's civilian garb. So sometimes with multiple head sculpts that come with Hot Toys figures, you can get third-party bodies, which I have to do, and you get third-party clothing, and you can use the head sculpt if you just want to display your Batman with a cowl. So, yeah. Anyway, I don't know why. Oh, over Jacob, because you're talking about Ben Affleck. I wish they would have done one movie send-off for his Batman, 3 hours, R-rated, brutal, and ruinous. Look, I'm with you, man. I mean, the Batman stuff in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice is so good. He's so good. He was so... I have to say that I know this seems strange, but one of my favorite Batman things ever is the opening of that movie where Bruce Wayne lands and he's watching the Battle of Metropolis and he goes into the fray. I loved it. I loved it. And I would love to... I desperately want to get that script, the Terminator... Deathstroke, the Terminator versus Batman script. I really want to read it. Is it Matt Guillemette? Guillem? I hate when I can't pronounce people's names. It's a great last name, but I keep thinking it's like French, like Guillaume. So is it Guillemette? Maybe. Or maybe, is that better? Mando episode 6 thoughts. Bro, I was perplexed. I've been perplexed by this entire season of The Mandalorian. We're getting some incredible TV writing. Succession's back. The writing's incredible. I've been loving, of course, Picard season 3. I've been watching Rabbit Hole, the new Kiefer Sutherland series on Paramount Plus. The 3 episodes of that, I've really been enjoying them. I don't know where it's all going to go. The Night Agent on Netflix, it's not awesome, but it's really good. I've really been enjoying these long form stories. I'm watching The Mandalorian. I'm like, what is going on here? It feels like I'm watching a Saturday morning cartoon version of Star Wars from 1982. I'm like, what is happening here? I mean, I have nothing against Lizzo or Jack Black. Love them both in their respective what they do, but was this supposed to be the goofy episode of The Mandalorian and the wackiness that, oh yeah, I was defeated and she defeated who defeated me, so here, have the Darksaber. What? I don't know, man. I don't know. I really don't. So yeah. Ben says, I saw Mario last night, expected my girlfriend to hate it. She's a huge Nintendo fan, but we both loved it. Couldn't get enough, although it's way too short. Well, that's good. If you both loved it and it left you wanting more, I would say that's a success. That's very cool. And the fact that you guys, that's what, you know what? What's great about that is so you and your lady go to the movies. You get to have a great time together, laugh together, enjoy it. That's what movies should be. And when movies bring that to people, then people want to go to movies again. So, yeah, I think it's fantastic. Maveth the Reaper says, Rob, loving this show so far and sending you positive vibes. We'll be tuning in more often. Well, thank you, Maveth. I really appreciate that. By the way, I appreciate in the last week, I mean, I can't believe the outpouring of subscribers and support that I've received. And I'm going to be bringing you the show religiously. I'm more, I was cranking these shows out almost every day during the pandemic, even when I was streaming with John, because I was home alone, and now I can get back to doing it on that schedule. And it's great. The Post-Geek Singularity, that's the name of the community here. And then the members of the community, everybody who's watching right now, you're not nerds, you're not geeks, you're imagination connoisseurs. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to have some news about I'm going to be doing a panel show with multiple people, probably daily, and that is in process. It's going to be different from the John Campea show. It's going to be a lot more debate and editorial, but it's going to be quite interesting. And so, I'll tell you more about that as it develops, but that's coming. So thanks, I appreciate that. Doc Civil sends in a super chat. Thanks, Doc Civil. Our great friend and great animator Tauren Atkinson sends in a super chat and says, D&D Honor Among Thieves pulled it off. What a ride. I just saw it. I got to tell you, I loved it. I loved Dungeons & Dragons. I thought, it's funny because it was just a fun, I'm not the I played D&D growing up, but there were some things like I missed the Critical Role Easter egg and things like that. But what a fun romp at the movies. You know what was really interesting to me about that film? Clearly the people that wrote it and directed it, they knew what they wanted it to be. By the way, I see Zod Rider, who's been a member of this channel. If you like the party that's going on here, in 1 hour, I will be on the Zod Rider show, and we've been having these late night party streams on Wednesday nights, which are a lot of fun. So, and we just shoot the shit, and it's a great time. So, and Zod Rider's been writing a book about the whole Snyder Cut movement, the whole experience, and everything that happened. And he was kind of discouraged when it didn't look like anything else was going to happen with the Snyder Cut, but he was convinced to keep going. I can't wait to read his book, and it's fun to stream with him. Mad Chad says, Rob, I just saw Mario Brothers with my 5-year-old son and 2 buddies. We all loved it, and the entire theater clapped at the end. The critics got this one wrong. You know what? All I'm hearing from people that are going is how much fun they're having. I think the people that look at this movie, here's the thing. When you watch, say, a classic Disney animated show or Disney animated film, whether it's all the way back to Snow White and Pinocchio or Fantasia, or you watch the original Beauty and the Beast and Lion King and The Little Mermaid, they work because The Little Mermaid's based on a Hans Christian Andersen tale. They're coming from classical tales that have existed in other iterations. The Super Mario Brothers movie is a video game adaptation, but it deals with the last 40 years of this character. And we all grew up with Super Mario and Luigi and the princess, and all of that stuff. And I think that if a lot of these critics, they're used to going to animated films that have that classical. It does have a classical structure to it, but all the stuff that's happening is lost on, I think, a lot of the critics. They're completely lost because they're untethered from what Super Mario is. So interesting. But I'm glad to hear, even in this chat, how many people are having, how much fun are you guys all having? It's great that everybody's going together and having a good time. Nick, our friend Nick from the Echo Base Network says, is it just me or were you also during Mando season 3, episode 6? What the fuck is going on with Star Wars? There's no defending this for me anymore. Honestly, with all the great writing, and I've been a fan of Jon Favreau's writing. I love Iron Man 1, but I have to tell you, I am perplexed by this season of Mandalorian. I thought we were going to have an overarching story that was going to be really serious. Look back at that great episode in season 2 with our favorite comedian, our favorite redhead comedian, Bill Burr. That was a great episode. That had real emotion, real pathos, and I thought it was terrific. Where's that? And why are the Mandalorians so goofy? Why do they live on a beach if they know that this lizard monster can come out of the water and eat you? Why don't they go back to the ruins of Mandalore and live in the cities and take over and start rebuilding? I don't understand. It's very weird to me. With all the great serialized writing that's happening on television, Mandalorian season 3 has left me. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's supposed to be. So yeah, I mean, I don't know where Star Wars is at. I really don't. Tom Jr. Jackson, our great moderator. Give Tom Jr. Jackson a shout. He says, good to see you, brother. It's good to see you too, Tom. You always do good work. So for those of you who are new here, Tom was writing something, and it was supposed to say we're all good people. And he made a typo, and it was we're all goof people. And I was delighted by this, and I thought we are all goof people. All of us, we imagination connoisseurs, we grew up, we're goof people. Might not be the right grammar, but all of us, everybody's kind of a goof person in their own way, and that is not an insult. You look at everybody and you see the humor in each other. Affectionately, you see the humor in everyone, and as Tom said, we are all goof people. And we are. And on Midnight Musings, that is the saying. We are all goof people. Dustin Cole says, it's a great way to wait for Star Trek Picard to drop. Keep it up. Can you believe there's only 3 episodes? Episode 8, man. Surrender. By the way, tomorrow I've been doing a Star Trek Picard after show, and Matt, the writer of tonight's or tomorrow's episode, the writer of episode 8, Surrender, will be on our Picard after show, the Curlin Nescos, a Picard after show. And so the writer of the episode will be on the show tomorrow with me and Bill Hunt from the Digital Bits at 8 p.m. So join us for that. Ed Darlow sends in a super chat. Thanks, Ed. Zod Rider is a member of the channel. Thank you for that, Zod. And I'll be seeing you in an hour. Sean Hoover, Sci-Fi Guilty Pleasures. 70s version. Silent Running, Dark Star, and Saturn III. Hold on a second. Come on, Sean. First of all, only one of those is a guilty pleasure. Silent Running was the first feature that was directed by Douglas Trumbull, who did the special effects for Close Encounters and Star Trek The Motion Picture and Blade Runner. And he directed that film. He directed 3 movies, actually. And he passed away recently. But Silent Running is a great movie. Bruce Dern. Dark Star was John Carpenter's first feature film. Yes, that John Carpenter. And Dark Star started as a student film they made at USC, and then a producer named Jack H. Harris, I think it's Jack H. Harris, gave him more money, and they fleshed it out into a feature film and made that. That was, by the way, in case you're wondering, that was one of the very first video cassettes I ever owned. The first video cassette I ever owned was Halloween. And then I got Dark Star was like the third, and it was on VCI Home Entertainment. And Silent Running, interestingly enough, was co-written by Michael Cimino, who made The Deer Hunter, and the great TV producer Stephen Bochco. Isn't that crazy? They wrote that movie. Now, Saturn III, directed by Stanley Donen, the man who directed Singing in the Rain and Charade. I think Singing in the Rain, yeah. He directed Charade too, but Saturn III, man. Kirk Douglas, Farrah Fawcett, and Harvey Keitel with his killer robot. And his voice was dubbed in that movie. If you guys want to see a wacky movie, watch Saturn III. Man. Tom Jr. Jackson says, will you be at the watch party with tonight? She's doing it from London. Well, yes, I will. Yes, I will. By the way, we do a Picard watch party on this show. She's at Star Wars Celebration in London right now. Well, she's in London going to go to Star Wars Celebration this weekend. So she's my co-host on Midnight Musings. And we should all watch. Let's all do it. Papa Jish is back and says, your personal opinion on what happens after this life. Wow. I find it fascinating that this is the one thing that none of us truly knows. Haha, aliens. That's a very interesting question to be asking me on this show. what happens? Well, I think it's, look, the universe, I think, is a very interesting place. And when you start delving into it, it's both scary and crazy and amazing. And we don't really understand consciousness. And there is conservation of energy. So, look, do I think that we're going to go to a place called heaven where there's angels flying overhead and people are always singing and we get to live in amazing condos? Or if you've ever seen the Albert Brooks movie with Meryl Streep defending your life, is it going to be like that? Or are we going to go to, hell and meet Gwendolyn Christie? I don't know. I don't think the way, I think it's all allegorical, but I don't know about what happens to us after this life. My first inclination would be to say that nothing happens after this life. But then again, I mean, there's a lot of this universe we don't understand at all. And I don't know. Interesting question. Our friend Kevin Rubio is right here. Kevin Rubio, who I'm working on an animated series with called the Geeky Fab 5. He also, for those of you, has written many episodes of animation, but he also started the entire modern fan film movement with his seminal film Troops, his Star Wars film Troops, which is both a comedy and canonical at the same time. I mean, it's not really canonical, but I think it's canonical. And he also wrote a great series, if you can get it, his Star Wars comics that Marvel republished in graphic novel form, Tag and Bink. You got to get the Tag and Bink comics because they're amazing. Kevin says, I want to come on the show and spend an hour waxing rhapsodic about Megaforce. Well, last year, 2022, we celebrated Megaforce's 40th anniversary. I'm just kidding. We didn't really celebrate it, but if you've never seen Megaforce, well, you're not missing anything at all. But it's a great artifact from the 80s, and you should see it because you won't believe it. Julian Park says, hey, Rob, thanks for your advice the other day regarding distilling my feature into a short. I rewatched my favorite Twilight Zone episode, Perchance to Dream, and took some notes. We'll keep you posted. I love hearing that, Julian. So what Julian is talking about, he had asked, he was on the show the other night, and he'd written a feature, but he was talking about like maybe reworking it. It wasn't working necessarily. And I had suggested maybe try distilling his feature down into a short, because a lot of people have made shorts and then they can turn those shorts into, if you make a great short film, it can be then turned into, you can extrapolate it out and turn it into a feature. And I suggested watching the Twilight Zone because there's 5 seasons of the original Twilight Zone. The first 3 and the last season are half-hour episodes. The season 4, they went to an hour-long format, and I don't think it works nearly as well. But pick your favorite Twilight Zone episode out, and it is a master class in writing stories. Because in 25 minutes, you have to establish a character and a situation and basically take that character and situation through a 3-act structure to a conclusion. And it's a master class in learning how to tell a story. But I'm glad my advice. I'm glad you like my advice, and I'm happy to be of, as they say in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, glad to be of service. So there you go. Justin Toner says, hey Rob, the TNG Star Trek films 4K set is getting good reviews. Looking forward to watching Picard Season 3, Episode 8 tomorrow. Well, Justin has a watch party tonight at midnight, so we can check that out. So yeah. Michael Patowski says, my Second Sight Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4K is shipped. I can't wait to see it. For those of you who want to know what he's saying, there is one of my favorite home video companies is Second Sight out of the UK. They specialize in genre films, a lot of horror stuff. I got one of my most eagerly awaited. This is George Romero, who made Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. Second Sight released his mid-70s vampire film Martin. And for those of you who don't know, these come in a really nice, great, really thick, hard plastic cover. And they come with books, and they do the greatest job. They really, when you buy a Second Sight release on physical media in 4K now. They do a fantastic job. They have a box set coming out of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original. Mine, I don't. When I place my order, I place my order for that, Picnic at Hanging Rock, and something else. I don't know if they've shipped mine. I should check. I can't wait to get it. Mattuine says, Jack Black and Lizzo, I heard it best described as stunt casting. Yes. I love seeing an episode full of droids and aliens, but that's about it. I'm afraid Star Wars Celebration will be a disappointment. Unless they announce something. I mean, I don't know, man. I think people are going to just... Look, people like Star Wars in general. They like the universe. They like the characters. I think people... And you get a bunch of Star Wars fans together. Everybody gets excited. But I wish Star Wars was better. Better. I don't know what to say. Stony Snark says, a weird guilty pleasure of mine, A Boy and His Dog. Have you seen it? Dude, I own it. I love A Boy. So A Boy and His Dog is based on a Harlan Ellison short story, and it stars Don Johnson, and it takes place after, I want to say, World War IV, and Don Johnson has a telepathic talking dog named Blood, and it is a very strange story about how Don Johnson, who's traveling the wasteland, finds an underground civilization, like a middle-class civilization, that they can't reproduce because the men are sterile, and Don Johnson is going to be a stud and impregnate all the women. But things don't go quite the way he thought they would. It's a terrific story, and I've loved that movie. And again, there's a lot of dystopian... I mean, this is a really interesting thing. So in the early 70s, pre-Star Wars, there was many dystopian science fiction films released. Some people know, like the Omega Man and Soylent Green. Those were Charlton Heston did the Planet of the Apes movies, Omega Man and Soylent Green. And the Omega Man was the second adaptation of Richard Matheson's novel I Am Legend. Will Smith did his, and then Vincent Price was in The Last Man on Earth. The Omega Man was pretty pulpy. Charlton Heston plays the Will Smith part in an empty Los Angeles, not in New York. And then Soylent Green is about a detective in an overpopulated New York City in the future. But there's a lot of dystopian movies. The original Rollerball, which I love. A movie called No Blade of Grass. The Final Countdown. Clockwork Orange is one of those. Kubrick's Clockwork Orange. Silent Running, to a certain extent, fits in with that. A great movie called Colossus, The Forbin Project. These are all great Demon Seed, kind of a, dystopian sci-fi films of the 70s. There's a lot of them. And I'll tell you something, Dave Cullen, over on the Dave Cullen show, has been delving into these, and over the last couple months has been reviewing a lot of these. He reviewed The Forbin Project, Colossus, The Forbin Project. So check those out. I don't think he's reviewed A Boy and His Dog yet. I would love to hear his review of that. That would be amazing. Will Johnson Sasso says, Rob, glad you're focusing more on Robservations because it is needed. Any show names for your panel show in the making? Never give up, never surrender. You know what I think I'm going to call this panel show? It's not going to be too shocking to anybody, but it's going to be called the Imagination Connoisseur Show. Simple as that. And there are panelists in the offing, but it's going to be a different show, but it's going to be called the Imagination Connoisseur Show. And there's more as it develops. I'll tell you about that as we move forward. Roberto Lima, wow, with a very nice super chat. Thank you for that, sir. Physical media is dead here in Brazil. Every major studio stopped selling Blu-rays and DVDs here. A sad day. Well, I understand that. It's too bad because, one, you probably have streaming, but if people aren't buying them or they're pirating them, it's a bummer. It's, by the way, thank you for generously supporting the channel. It sucks. It's a bummer because, there's some Portuguese movies. The thing about Portuguese language movies, I bet there's a lot of Brazilian films that we just won't get here in America. It was, what was it? Was it the Elite Squad movies? Those are, I think, Brazilian. And the director of those movies ended up directing the American remake of RoboCop. I love those movies. There's 2 of them. And I actually have those on physical media. But it's a bummer. It's a bummer. The one thing, I mean, I like buying foreign films. Maybe Criterion. I mean, I don't know why they don't do that. That's a bummer. Y Sanchez says, can you do a full movie review on Blood In, Blood Out? I'll do you one better. Last year, during the pandemic, Tom from Midnight's Edge and Polly, the Latino slant, somehow we were talking on a stream and it randomly came up. We started talking about Blood In, Blood Out. We are fanatics about Blood In, Blood Out. It's never come out on Blu-ray and it's never come out on 4K, although there is on YouTube, unless they've pulled it down. Somebody did I think an AI upscale of Blood In, Blood Out. It was on YouTube. It looked fantastic. I mean, it looks better than my standard def DVD. I love Blood In, Blood Out. Vatos Locos Forever. My carnal, Milkweed. I love that movie. So good. But we did a cast reunion. Most of the cast, not our favorite White Chicano. He wasn't able to make it. But Benjamin Bratt came. I was able to get Taylor Hackford, the director, to come. So look for that. Look for the Blood In, Blood Out cast reunion. And Jimmy Baca, whose work inspired the movie, was on. It was amazing. And we just did this thing to raise money for the Latino Theater in L.A. And we just decided to throw it together. And Midnight's Edge and Paulie from Latino Slant put it together. And I was the one that I suggested maybe I can get to Taylor Hackford, and he'd come, and he did. And it was incredible. So you can watch. The stream is on YouTube. So check that out, Y Sanchez. I am a huge fan of that movie. Huge fan. To me, it's the East Los Godfather. So yeah, I mean, you got to love that. It's great. It's great. Haunted Autumn. Been a member of the channel for 3 months. I don't know if there is a heaven, but I know what Rob's hell is. Stuck in an editing bay for all eternity. But it's for J.J. Abrams' next Star Trek film. Yeesh, and it would never end. I've often thought like hell, if there is a hell, it's like the California DMV, but they never call your number for eternity. But that would be just as bad. Binary Sunset Media says, however vast the darkness, we must supply our own light. Stanley Kubrick said that. It is true. It is a great quote from Kubrick, my favorite director. Yeah, it's fantastic. Zod Riders here with a $25 super chat. Thank you, my friend. Pre-ordered show. I love it. I'm going to stream with you in 45 minutes, and you're sending me super chats. God bless you. Zod Rider says he pre-ordered Showgirls in 4K. Vinegar Syndrome is doing the Lord's work. Their entire catalog of films is super impressive. Pow! Fire, fire, fire. I'll tell you something. So for those of you who might be interested in physical media, there is a really great company called Vinegar Syndrome, and they put out a lot of cult titles. They put out a movie on Blu-ray, an Australian exploitation title from the 80s called Body Melt. I'd never seen it before, and I'd only seen, the only thing you could get was a VHS rip on DVD, and the quality was terrible. Vinegar Syndrome put out Body Melt. They put out My Beloved Liquid Sky, but now they're putting out things in 4K. They put out Don Coscarelli's The Beastmaster in 4K. They recently released Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze, and they do it up. They do these great boxes, and they released Showgirls in 4K in Germany in a media book, but the transfer is it was a little sketchy. Too much digital noise reduction. But Vinegar Syndrome, they are doing it right. And go to Vinegar Syndrome. Just go to their. They also have what I like to call 70s bush porn. I love my 70s bush porn or Euro softcore. So they put out a lot of classic 70s porn titles through various partner labels, and they do it up right, man. Vinegar Syndrome, go check them out. They're amazing. Sean Hoover says, forgot Logan's Run. How can you forget Logan's Run? 1976, that movie blew my mind. I saw it at the John Dance Theater opening weekend. It was fantastic. Joe Panora Says, greetings RMB. Speaking of being sterile, what do you think of Children of Men? Oh, dude. Okay. There has not been in the last 23 years, in the 2000s, a lot of great science fiction movies. Children of Men is absolutely one of them. Alfonso Cuarón, it's great. I love that film. You know, it has a real melancholy feel to it. If you guys haven't seen Children of Men, I'll tell you something. You want to watch a great double bill? Here's a great science fiction double bill, but it's if you're in a melancholy mood, if you're in a bad mood, I don't suggest this double bill. But if you can handle it, Children of Men, and then actually the other movie is Never Let Me Go, that Andrew Garfield is in. It's got a great cast. Never Let Me Go is based on a novel. It's the second feature that was directed by Mark Romanek, who directed 1 Hour Photo with Robin Williams. And don't read anything about Never Let Me Go, but watch it. And watch Never Let Me Go and Children of Men. Sit down and watch both of those and get back to me. Tell me what you think. But both of those films I think are two of the finest science fiction movies of the 2000s. And fantastic movie. So Children of Men, amazing. Papa Jish says, thank you for your patience and articulate answers. Okay, are you excited for The Evil Dead? Mommy's with the maggots now. I can't fucking wait to see Evil Dead Rise. I saw Evil Dead in the theater when it first came out in 1981. I met Sam Raimi when they were scoring Darkman on the Warner Brothers lot. He signed my Japanese Laserdisc Beast Witches, Sam Raimi. And I worked on Army of Darkness. I was working for Tony Gardner. We were doing all the Evil Ash and Deadite stuff. I have a credit in the end credits. I think it's makeup effects or something. A makeup effects production assistant. But I worked on Army of Darkness. So I love the Evil Dead franchise. This movie looks fantastic. I can't wait. Kevin Rubio brings up Damnation Alley, another great 70s dystopian. It was later in the game, also from 20th Century Fox, I believe. Great 70s sci-fi. It had the Roadmaster, this cool, like in the 70s you had like Arc 2, and then they like rebuilt it as the Roadmaster in Damnation Alley, or maybe it was the other way around, but Damnation Alley. Man, look, if you don't want to watch these movies, at least watch the trailer. Go watch the trailer for Damnation Alley on YouTube. I mean, watch all these trailers. Watch the Boy and His Dog trailer. Watch Rollerball, the original Rollerball, Silent Running. These are great trailers. Omega Man, No Blade of Grass, The Ultimate Warrior. I mean, here's one. Here's one I got from Warner Archive. A movie called ZPG, which stands for Zero Population Growth. Watch that trailer. There was a lot of wacky stuff in the 70s, let me tell you. Haunted Autumn says, what about Pure Imagination for the panel show? Robservations presents Pure Imagination. Come with me and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. The only thing about that is it's a song lyric. And I wouldn't want to get in trouble. I like the idea, though. I think it's good. I think it's actually a really good name for a show. Hitchcock is the GOAT says, you're missed on the John Campea show, but I'm more happy that you're expanding your own stuff now. I'd much rather see your own success. I sent in a 2-part tip 40 minutes ago. Oh, you did? Well, let me go. Hitchcock is the GOAT, since you're right here, and go back. And wow, there's lots of tips here. I didn't. Hitchcock is the GOAT. Sent in a 2-part tip 40 minutes ago. This is one of 2. I, too, am a huge Tom Clancy fan. I think his shorter, tighter stories like Red October and Patriot Games make great films, but his longer, more sprawling stories involving multiple main characters and stories such as Executive Orders and Rainbow Six would benefit as a season of television. I couldn't agree more. I love John Krasinski in the role, but it baffles me that 7 Jack Ryan novels are being ignored. Amazon could use that source material and develop those novels into their own seasons of television. What Hitchcock is a GOAT is saying is true. I am a huge Tom Clancy fan, and the first Tom Clancy book I read was Red Storm Rising, which is not a Jack Ryan book, but it's a great book. Really incredibly well-researched, very dense, basically about World War III. But the Jack Ryan novels have a definite overarching story, and they lead up to Jack Ryan becoming the president of the United States. And believe it or not, after 9/11 happened, Tom Clancy was on a lot of TV shows because his movie or his book, Debt of Honor, spoiler alert, we basically begin a hot war with Japan. I know, long story. But in the end, these Japanese terrorists crash an airliner into Congress when the president is addressing Congress and destroys. They totally rip this off for Designated Survivor. And then Jack Ryan ascends to the presidency, and then in the book Executive Orders, a lot of people take advantage of that. It would make a great series of movies. I don't know why, like you, Hitchcock is a goat. Why do they not do a book a season? Like they're doing with Jack Reacher. They've gone back to Lee Child's books and they're adapting a book a season, and those books are great. I mean, I don't know about you, but I do consider Air Force One an unofficial Jack Ryan novel or Jack Ryan movie because he's president, and I loved Executive Orders. Destiny Captain says, Rob, I'd love to see you interview Mike from Red Letter Media on your channel. Mike, first of all, I love those guys. I've loved those guys for 10 years since the first time I saw anything Red Letter Media did was their Generations review for Star Trek Generations, and that was the first time I encountered Plinkett, Mr. Plinkett, and then I watched, First Contact and Insurrection and Nemesis, and then they did the prequel trilogy reviews are savage and amazing, and I love Red Letter Media, love them. They're so great and so funny, and they're not Red Letter Media, but in a way, there's a sensibility. There are these guys that make videos called the Oral Knots, AURALNAUTS, Oral Knots. They have a little bit. They're like the Monty Python version of Red Letter Media, but you got to go see their videos are genius. If you don't know Red Letter Media, one of my favorite things on the internet is Freestyle Bane. If you've never watched Freestyle Bane, go to the Oral Knots channel. I think about it. Some of their stuff just cracks me up. Go watch, along with Red Letter Media, go watch the Oral Knots because they're amazing. Jason S. says, you know what? I would love to interview Mike, by the way. I don't know him. I should reach out to him and see if he'd come on the channel. I'd love to interview him. Jason S. says, I recently got around to watching the Otini version of the original trilogy. Haven't seen the theatrical cuts since the 80s. Really enjoyed it and really liked that you didn't have those horrible matte lines everywhere. Yeah, there's a number of different versions of the original Star Wars that people have pieced together. I have the negative 77 versions and then the despecialized versions. I mean, it's hard for me. Like, I can't watch the special edition of Star Wars. I can't. The computer effects just bug the crap out of me. I know I don't see it like that. I can't. It's terrible. Yeah, I don't like it. Don't like them. So, but yeah, they're the Otini versions. There's a number of different versions. Dr. Avram Jimenez sends in a $20 tip. Thank you, sir. Hey, Rob, I've been a longtime fan of the Campy Show for years. First time ever tipping. That's so nice of you. And wanted to support your channel. You and your insight have always been one of the highlights of my movie fandom. That's very nice of you to say. That's very kind. On my channel, I can be a little bit more exuberant, more Rob than Rob. That's our motto here at the Tyrell Corporation. But I very much appreciate that. That's very nice. So it's been a really the very nice outpouring from people on the Campy channel and all these new subscribers, and it's really nice to have everybody. As I said, this is the 841st version of this show. My girlfriend and I, Elizabeth, on this channel, we're going to bring back our show Whining About Movies, where we would share a bottle of wine. We'll watch a movie and then review it and share a bottle of wine. We're bringing that back. We did during COVID, we did 150 episodes of that. And then on this channel also, I do Let's Get Physical Media on Sundays with Dieter Bastian, all the way from Saarbrücken, Deutschland. So it's great to have you watching the channel. I very much appreciate you tipping. That's very nice of you. Gina sends in a tip and says, I'm anxious to hear your review of John Wick 4. Too much went down when the movie came out. Not sure if missed it. Oh, no, I've seen it. I'm a big fan of yours. You're cute, too. Gina. Why, thank you. Listen, I I love the John Wick franchise. I really liked the world building and everything, and I thought the direction and everything that went into John Wick 4 was fantastic. But you know what? I'm going to do a piece, an overview of the entire John Wick franchise. I liked John Wick 4. It has incredible stuff in it. I think it might have gone too far. A little too far. I think it strained credulity a little. But it was an incredibly fun time at the movies. But I want to talk about the whole John Wick franchise. And I think I'm going to do a piece on it. So for those of you who are asking, I am starting up probably next week. I'm going to start doing these videos called 10 in 20. The word 10, T-E-N, in 20, colon 20. So 10 in 20 minutes. And I'm going to do 10 things. I'm going to start with Star Trek because people are always asking me, Rob, Star Trek is there's so much of it. Where do I begin? People ask me that a lot. So what I'm going to do, my 10 in 20s are going to be specifically, it's not necessarily the best and it's not going to be definitive, but I'm going to list 10 episodes of the first season of Star Trek that anybody who wants to understand Star Trek can watch. It'll be some of the best episodes, but also the first Klingon episode, the first Romulan episode, the Khan episode, the Menagerie where Captain Pike is introduced. So if you watch the 10 episodes that I put on this list, and I'm not saying they're definitive, there's other episodes you should watch as well. But these 10 are going to be, if you want to know about Star Trek, you can watch the 10 episodes. And I'm going to go through all the Star Trek shows and do 10 in 20s. I don't know if I'm going to do them consecutively, but I'm definitely going to do the original series. And they're going to be produced videos, not live. So there'll be 20-minute videos, 10 and 20. And then I might do like my 10 favorite 80s splatterpunk novels or my 10 favorite Duran Duran songs, or something. But they're going to be a list of 10 things in 20 minutes. So hopefully, Gina, you'll still think I'm cute after I do those. I hope so. Darth Plato says, did you notice Jack Black's facial hair in The Mandalorian? It looks like a deliberate rip of Franz Joseph of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. Let me see. So Darth Plato is our resident historian here, and he includes a link. So I'm going to put that in the live chat. And I think you're probably absolutely right because, so here it is. Here's the link. And you can go see Franz Joseph. Thanks for that, Darth Plato. And I think that you're probably right. I mean, I'm sure it was done on purpose because they look at stuff like that. I mean, look at how much of the Jedi stuff was based on Kurosawa's visions of the samurai. Our friend Sheriff Carl up in the great P&W, Pacific Northwest, Sheriff Carl says, that's how you become great, man. You hang your balls out there. Jerry Cantrell and Jerry Maguire, you're my favorite dude on the tube, my man. Live long and prosper and kick fucking ass. I'll be here watching you till the cows come home to Ballard. Dude, I got to come to Ballard, and we need to drink in Ballard. I haven't had a drink in Ballard in too long. For those of you who wonder what I'm talking about, Seattle is my hometown. Ballard is a part of Seattle, and it's where the locks are, actually. The Ballard locks, where they bring in ships and raise them up and down to get into fresh to salt water. It's crazy up there. But Sheriff Carl, thank you for supporting the channel. It's very nice. Let's see. Good Canadian Kid says, hey, Rob, I'm a fan of your knowledge from the John Campea Show. Thank you. Question, have you played or heard of the game Nier Automata? I have not. If not, worth a try. You know what? I will make a note of that. That is very nice. That's very nice of you. Before I get back to Super Chats, one of the things I do on this channel is read viewer letters. And it doesn't cost anything unless you want to write me a really, really long letter. But you can go to, right below my name there, www, our website, postgeeksingularity.com, and you can send me letters. And I've got a few letters here to read. And like, here's one. This letter comes to us from Brian Foster. And the subject is, why are creators seemingly addicted to insulting their fan base before their projects come out? Hello, Robert. How are you? I hope to hear you talk about Angel Manuel Soto being yet another creator to talk crap to the fans and stir up division before his movie is even released. I didn't know that. I'm sure you've heard about it. In the Blue Beetle trailer, they call Batman a fascist, and Angel Manuel is on Twitter saying he is glad that he has upset people. Well, that's weird, but I mean, if you've read the Blue Beetle comic, that comment is kind of from the comic. It's accurate to the comics. And of course, because he is now fair game, people found an all too predictable old tweet where he was wishing assassination. Oh, I did see this on our last president. Will these so-called creators ever learn? Have you addressed this already? If so, can I get a link to the video, or will you talk about it sometime? I really enjoy your content. Thanks, and have a nice day. Well, this is actually a really interesting topic, I think. Creators are just like the rest of us. Like, I consider myself a creator, and I've said a lot of things online that maybe I shouldn't have said. I get in fights with people and flame wars, and I've been getting into flame wars with people on the internet since the 90s. But I think if you are making something that you want people to see and experience, I think that we as creators, or we as fans, or we as pundits, if you are online, I mean, everyone watching now, you imagination connoisseurs, you're my audience. And as long as, like, I might get mad at somebody, or somebody calls me, there's a lot of people who are in the Star Trek community that can't stand me for various reasons because of my thoughts on J.J. Abrams' Star Trek or Star Trek Discovery. They hate my guts. They even try and get me. I have writers or actors from Star Trek Picard on my channel, and they literally will tweet to these actors to tell them not to talk to me, which is crazy considering, I did 3 years of documentaries that are on the Blu-rays of Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Enterprise. I made a feature film with William Shatner. I'm not saying they have to listen to me, but, I don't even know them, and they're trying to get involved in my professional life. But I do think that anybody who's creating something, it's probably a good bet not to be insulting to your audience. Or if people object to something like in the trailer about Batman being called a fascist, rather than I would retort, if I was the creator, I would say, well, Frank Miller really leaned into the idea of Batman being a fascist in The Dark Knight. And there are other people that have called Batman a fascist throughout the comics. And in the comic of Blue Beetle, this is something that the characters would say. Whether they think Batman really is a fascist. I mean, the point is, I think it was said, the character said it. I don't think necessarily the creators of Blue Beetle are insinuating that Batman is himself a fascist. Certain characters say that. But, Batman, and you don't have to insult people when they point it out. People can get very angry. And his tweet about the Trump presidency hoping it ended like Lincoln's did, things like that. I'll tell you right out, I am by no means at all a Trump supporter. I found the fact that he got elected as somebody who, Donald Trump's been a pop culture figure in my life since like the 80s. I read The Art of the Deal when it came out. I would never have voted for him for president, and I don't think he necessarily did a good job. He did actually, there are some policies, believe it or not, that during the Trump presidency that were actually beneficial. But I didn't, as a person, as a human being, I don't think, he necessarily should have been elected to high office. But on the other hand, he represented a lot of people, and a lot of people voted for him. There was a reason why he became president of the United States. And I think that, if this country needs one thing, we need to talk to each other. And to be insulting to people you don't know, I think is not a great course of action. And I would much rather try and understand someone's point of view than if somebody like, oh, you call Batman a fascist, and then why get mad at them? Come back and explain it. Say, well, in this issue of the comic, this character said Batman was a fascist. So if you know the Blue Beetle, this iteration of Blue Beetle, not the Ted Kord Blue Beetle, but this iteration of Blue Beetle, it comes out of the comic. And help people understand so they know where you're coming from. It doesn't take much to be nice to people on Twitter, especially fans, the people that are actually going to buy your material, whether it's a book, whether it's a movie, whether it's physical media of the movie that you made. We're all like, to me, I'm first and foremost a fan. I don't like being insulted. I don't. But on the other hand, I think that we as fans as well, if we have access to creators via social media, we should be polite to them, and because they're trying, believe it or not, they're usually trying to do their best. When I was in film school and somebody who came down to create something or somebody who created a film that we loved, we would keep these people after forever until they just demanded they had to go. And I think that we both, on both sides, we can always be more polite as fans. And then because, hey, how great is it through social media? We have access to people that create the stuff we love. We just have to be, I think, smart about it. Because for every creator that's a dick to us, I'll freely admit, I've said some pretty scathing things on the internet about people's work, and especially when it comes to Star Trek. So, yeah. Look, I just think in general, we as Americans, or just in general as human beings, can just be nicer to each other. And I'm not saying kumbaya nice, but just be a little bit more mindful of people. I don't see that that's a problem. Willie J. Sasso writes, thoughts on your new direction. Hi, Rob. Huge fan. Thank you. I appreciate that, Willie. I think your insight on movies, entertainment, television, and the business as a whole is such a needed reprieve from the madness of daily life. Oh, thank you very much. I know you've left your full-time position with John Campea and are focusing on your own channel. And if I may say, fantastic. I'd like to offer my own 2 cents that you can happily ignore. You're a genius and a legend, Rob. People love you. Should I ignore that? No, but thank you. That's very flattering. I think you should focus on building one solid show, in addition to your awesome streams, but one main show, let's say Robservations, that is focused and consistent. I believe that if you give Robservations some structure, you can build it up to be an amazing channel that people view daily. If you build it, we will stream. That is all. Best of luck, Rob. We will be watching, literally. Well, Willie, I want to thank you for that. I agree. But here's the thing. Building a panel show, like, John has a great eye for talent. And I honestly believe that the John Campea show is and not just because I was on it, but, the last year that we were working on that show, when we moved in the studio, I thought it was the best produced movie pundit show on YouTube. I really did. And I liked it had such structure and people knew what they were going to get. And I liked the rapport. I really loved sitting in that studio with John and Chris and Ray and Jonathan and Taylor and Aaron when she was there. I thought we had the best time ever. And the channel was doing really, really well. And I love doing that. I think you're right. I mean, a good show. If and when I do a show, and we're developing it, like I told you, tentatively it's called the Imagination Connoisseurs. I would still, by the way, do Robservations as my own sort of op-ed show. I would want it to be different, though. I definitely would want it to be more of a debate show. Still keep it smart, but have really, really debate the issues. And maybe not like a political debate, but really delve into these issues and examine them from many different points of view. And the people that I'm looking into getting on this channel are pretty impressive, a pretty impressive group of people. Some you might know, some you're not going to know. So it's going to be really interesting, I think. And look out for that. It's going to happen relatively quickly. It's just to do the thing. I've got to figure out graphics and openings and music and all kinds of things. So, So Christopher Cafe says, hey, Rob, thoughts on the Record of Lodoss War anime? I have never seen that. I know a little bit of it, but I've watched very little of it. And I probably just mispronounced the name. So that's something I don't know. And I'm a big fan of that kind of anime, but I'm kind of old school. I love Macross, aka Robotech. I'm a big Gundam fan, Space Battleship Yamato, Dogram or Dugram, Evangelion, that kind of stuff. But Lotus War, I don't know much of, so I have to look into that. They Live with Rowdy Roddy Piper and the TV show Timeless. All some of my favorites. You know what? Timeless was pretty good. I like Timeless. And They Live, of course. So They Live was made in the late, I want to say it came out in 88. I think it came out in 88. John Carpenter, after he made Big Trouble in Little China, he made a series of movies with big studios, including like Starman, and he made The Thing, and they were never as successful as he had hoped. So he went back and he had a deal with Alive Films to make 3 low-budget movies. And the first was Prince of Darkness, and the second was They Live. And I'm a huge fan of both of those movies. To me, they're beautifully shot, and they've got great Carpenter scores. And they're both the Prince of Darkness is one of my favorite John Carpenter movies, and They Live is a hoot. It's so good, and it's so much fun. I do have the Studio Canal box set, the 4-disc box set of that movie, and it is fantastic. Rick Schnupp says, thoughts on Constantine. I'm a huge Hellblazer fan. I read Hellblazer originally when he was introduced in the pages of Swamp Thing by Alan Moore. I loved the Vertigo comic that Jamie Delano started writing. I love Hellblazer. And I was like one of these people like, why is John Wick, no, he wasn't John Wick then, but why is Keanu Reeves going to play Constantine? But I'll tell you something, put all that aside. I really like the movie. I think the Constantine movie is really great. And even though it delves into the Dangerous Habits storyline, I think Garth Ennis wrote, and it's not the John Constantine I would have preferred, but I really liked it. I think it's really imaginative. I thought some really great stuff went on in it. I don't know if we're ever going to get a sequel now with what they're doing at DC, but I sure would like one. James Wallace says, they thought Damnation Alley would be a huge hit over Star Wars. Seriously, I know. By the way, there was the novelization. The movie poster was great. It was, didn't work out that way. Anonymous girl writes in, have you seen Yellow Jackets? Not the new season. Who's eating who? Instead of who's zooming who. I've not seen the new season yet. I really liked the first season. I thought it was great. And I can't wait to see what's going to happen. I just haven't caught up with it because there's so much stuff. But it's really good. I really like it. And I've loved Melanie Linsky for a long time. She was in Peter Jackson's Heavenly Creatures. I thought, Deborah, with Kate Winslet, back in the 90s. I love that movie. And I think she's great. And all the actors are great in that show. Actresses, I should say. But I think it's great. And I can't wait to catch up with what season 2's got going on. Haunted Autumn says, I was reading executive orders on 9/11. That's crazy. That is crazy. Wow. That is nuts. Kelly Rhodes says Vinegar Syndrome also has an app. So does Arrow and Zavvi. Yeah, and you know what pisses me off? So Zavvi in the UK is no longer shipping to the United States, and they put out this badass Leon, or AKA The Professional, box set with all the swag in it that I couldn't get. I mean, I already have it on 4K, but I really wanted that box set. There's only like 1,200 of them sold out, but they're not shipping to the United States anymore. Bad, Zavvi, bad. But yeah, they have apps, and I recommend everybody patronizing them and buying great physical media. Papa Jish says, I definitely will watch Never Let Me Go. Added to the queue. Favorite war film, thinking to do Come and See. I have Come and See on Blu-ray from Criterion. Oh man, that movie's bleak and dark, like you say. I got some of my favorite war movies. Obviously, Apocalypse Now, Paths of Glory, Kubrick. Apocalypse Now, though, probably is my favorite. Patton. I love Patton. And then I really like World War II movies like Where Eagles Dare, Men on a Mission movies that are more pulpy, Dirty Dozen, Great Escape. I mean, the Dirty Dozen, I guess it's a war movie, but the Great Escape takes place during World War II, but I don't know if it's a war movie. I guess it is because it's, these guys are trying to escape from a POW camp, but, those are some of my favorites. Those are the first that came to mind. Will C says, the first film that you and your girlfriend should review is Takashi Kitano's, or beat Takahashi, Hanabi. You're the best. I own Hanabi. That's not a bad idea. Rob, hope the channel keeps growing. I hope it does too. I'm surprised by how far and wide it is growing. Hanabi is great. As a matter of fact, Takashi Kitano's films are great. I love him. I love when they made Battle Royale, they made him the teacher. It's awesome. Maria Espino. Hello, Maria. How are you? Rob, the website hangs on Google Ads not loading, by the way, and the links in the description of your videos do not work. Maybe the domain name is broken? Huh. That's interesting. Corey Flamingo says, hey, Rob, could you do a Rob Con? That could be fun. I've talked about doing meetups. I mean, I might be going to Europe when Tango Shalom opens in Germany, and I've been talking about maybe crowdfunding some kind of a trip and do meet and greets around Europe. But a RobCon could be fun. It could be fun. The website hangs on Google Ads and not loading. So I'll check that. Maybe the website's down. You know what? Mike Bodden might be working on the website right now as we speak and updating it. So yeah. Well, on that note, everybody, I'm going to bring this episode of Robservations, episode number 841, to a close. I want to thank everybody that has subscribed to the channel. Thank you all so much. And you people have been so generous to me and so nice to me, and supporting the channel, and just the kind words and all the suggestions that have been flooding in. It's been great. I just promised to keep doing, more stuff, and I do want to thank John Campia for sponsoring this episode of Robservations. You can watch the John Campia Show, obviously, on YouTube, and if not, you can hear it wherever podcasts are, wherever you get your podcast. Now, we have a podcast feed, too, that has been dormant for a while, and people have been mad at me, so I'm going to start putting up these in podcast form. So it's already, if you want to get this show on podcast form, you'll be able to do that. And so that'll happen. I just have to do it. And there's more Designing Hollywood's coming. We're also on this channel. We have a new show dropping that I'm not hosting called Architects of Imagination. And it's being hosted by DJ, who's a game developer. And one of the first people, it drops on Saturday, April 15th at 6 p.m. One of the heads of Naughty Dog, one of the big designers from Naughty Dog, is the first guest. So look out for that. And I'm dropping an interview with DJ on there's an Architects of Imagination playlist already. I'll be dropping that interview that I did with him tomorrow. And so look for that. And of course, tomorrow I'll do another Robservations, and we're doing our Picard episode 8 Surrender after show tomorrow. And tonight, I guess at midnight, when the show airs, or maybe they'll start earlier because Paramount Plus usually drops it earlier, I'll probably still be on the Zod Rider show. By the way, you can come over in 7 minutes, come over to the Zod Rider channel, and we're going to keep the party going. But thanks, everyone. I want to thank Tom Jr. Jackson and Justin Toner, who are moderators for the channel. I want to thank them for the great work that they do. And I guess that's it. Remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And with that, I say to all of you, have a better night. Because having a better night is always a good way to be.